First of all, it's an absolute pleasure. You went and hired Vic Fangio. Now, anybody that had a cup of coffee with Sean McVay got a job. It's an offensive league. You went with a defensive coach and an older defensive coach. Did you feel like there's risk involved? Why did you go that way?
You know, I kind of went into the process with an open mind. I wanted to try to find the best head coach out there, so I tried to go in without any pre-drawn conclusions. And obviously, everybody was going young and going offense, but I just wanted to sit down and meet with them all before I came to any conclusions. And I had every candidate I interviewed was really good, but Vic was the last one. And Vic really struck me in the fact that, his attention to detail. His understanding of the defensive side of the game, of football, and his past history, and really thought that he was a perfect fit for us at the time. He's a no BS guy. He gets right to the point. But players love playing for him because the players know that he puts them in the best situation to be successful. So, I had about a 5-hour interview with Vic and really figured that he was going to be the guy. I still think football is still all about blocking and catching and being disciplined and attention to detail. And Vic has all those type things. And really, never had an opportunity to be a head coach. And I thought with what we needed at the time, that he was a perfect fit for us, and so far it's been tremendous.
John, as a general manager, very few great players in any sport have become a great general manager, because when you're a great player, maybe it is hard to forget evaluation, just to understand what it's like to be a grinder or a mediocre player. And I look at football and I think to myself, I would really struggle to evaluate receivers, but I feel pretty good I can watch a college running back and say, that guy will work at the next level. Are there positions for you, John, in evaluation that you feel strong with that are harder? Does your quarterbacking help you or hinder you on some evaluation positions?
It does. I think because it's much tape, and you would think that I would think that I'm better on the offensive side, having been a quarterback and played on the offensive side for so long. It does help me with assignments and knowing routes and how, with wide receivers, wide receivers, what I liked in wide receivers. But it also helped me, I always look at the defensive side of the ball and really look at corners and safeties, which a lot of times are the toughest ones. But I know what I liked going against, and I liked what I know what I didn't like going against. And I think that helps me as an evaluator with the secondary as well as linebackers and pass rushers. And so I think my experience, but from the viewpoint of all the defensive tape that I watched, because I never watched offenses other than a review of our game, I spent all my time watching defensive players. And so therefore, I felt like sometimes I'm better looking at defensive players than I am offensive players, not necessarily running or wide receivers, but because of what I've watched my whole career. But then again, you have your strengths and you have your weaknesses, and you rely on your scouts and you rely on the people around you that you feel like are good in different areas, and you trust them and what they see.
John, you were unique. You had the arm, you had the size, you had the intellectual pedigree, you were an athlete. You were very much, I would say, a Patrick Mahomes, kind of you watch him play, and even a guy like me can figure it out. But if you look at the history of the NFL, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, I can go, Peyton Manning wasn't very athletic. Phillip Rivers played at NC State. There's a lot of Phil Simms. In fact, I'd argue there's a lot more Phil Simms in the history of this league than there are John Elways. How much to you is arm talent? And how much of this quarterback position, John, is guts, chip on the shoulder, toughness, being able to get hit, leadership? Because you had a great arm. Does arm matter to you a ton?
I think it helps. I don't think it's an end-all. Obviously, you don't need a great arm. I think there's plenty of guys in the league that have proven that you don't need a great arm. You need the intellect. There's no question. As you said, the players that you just mentioned were all tremendous players that weren't necessarily great athletes, but they're still good. They're still good athletes to play in the NFL. So, and I will go back, and the one thing that I guess I did learn over my time playing, Colin, is the fact that to win, what I believe is to win a Super Bowl, I believe you have to win it from the pocket. And, you can get outside and make plays, run around and make some, third down, pick up some third downs and do that. But I don't think you can make that a consistent way to win football games. I think overall you have to be able to win it from the pocket. And that's why the guys that you mentioned are so great and have had so much success, because they're not necessarily getting out running around, but they're able to win it from the pocket. And I think to win championships, that's what you have to do.
John, one of the things, football is safer today, John. There's less hitting. There's fewer two-a-days. But here's what I don't like about it. I think offensive line play has deteriorated. I think it's harder to know. You get less practice with offensive lines. I think that position. So we have this asset called quarterback, and I think it's harder to get people to protect the quarterbacks. I know in Denver, you've had some hits and some misses on the offensive line. Football has changed. It's safer for the players. But do you think all the safety measures and less practice are good for the players?
I do. I think it is good for the players. And I think that, with the rule changes, they're making the game safer. I think they're taking the unnecessary hits out of the game, and that's what we're trying to do, is to prevent the big hits that are not necessary. Football is always going to be a physical game, and it's always going to be, blocking and tackling. But I think with where the rules are going as far as the amount of practices, they don't beat on each other nearly as much than we used to, which helps with the health. I will also say when you're talking about the offensive line, I would also say that they're not getting trained in college as well either, because the offenses are changing in college, and with the spread offenses, and they're in 2-point stances. The downhill running game is not there anymore in college football. So the offensive linemen are not getting trained coming out of college like they used to either. And so it just takes longer for the offensive linemen to develop once they get up to, the NFL level.
Finally, John, you obviously, you have aged very well. You're running an NFL team, but you were diagnosed about 10, 12 years ago with Dupuytren construction with your hands. And, weather-related, DNA, family. I want you to talk about that a second, because you've largely been seen as somebody that is very healthy post-football. But you got diagnosed with something years ago.
I did. It was back in 2005, and it's called Dupuytren's contraction. It's really the bending of your fingers in your hands to where they bend more and more all the time. And at some point in time, they just continued to bend. And so I was diagnosed in 2005. And at that point in time, the only option was surgery. And after playing 16 years, and I'd had plenty of surgeries after I retired, and decided that, I didn't want to have another surgery. And so it continued to get worse on me. My hands, I have it in both my hands on my ring fingers, and they just continued to contract. And then about 2 years ago, I found out that there was a non-surgical option to be able to fix the problem of Dupuytren's. And so I'm proud to be a part of this message, to be able to get it out to people and get the understanding of what Dupuytren's is about. And there are a lot of different options now, more options than there used to be. And you can go to factsonhand.com, and that explains a lot of it. But also, if you feel like this is symptoms that you may have, to go see your hand doctor and see if it's something that they can fix.
By the way, you're in the AFC as a general manager. Have you ever texted or called Tom Brady and say, Tom, could you just retire already? It's good God, you got a trophy room. When you talk to Brady as an all-time great, what makes it click for him?
I think that, it had a chance when Tom was young, when we were both younger, to play some golf with him and get a chance to know him. And I really tell you that obviously the success that Tom's had has been tremendous. But I think, ultimately we see everything on the outside. The fans see what he's about. But ultimately, what makes Tom click is that heart and what's inside, and the desire to win, the competitive nature that he has, the toughness, the mental toughness that he has, and to be able to play big in big games. And, that's what he's done so well for so long. At 42 years old, he's still clicking along. I can't wait till he's 47. I don't know if he'll still be around, but I'm hoping to be at 47. Then we'll all have a chance.
By the way, John, I remember when you retired. I remember it. It shocked people, John. You had good football left in you. Have you ever for one second thought, You know, I was a super. I probably had 2 more years left. Because I remember when you retired, I was a kid, I remember thinking, John Elway retired? Do you ever look back at that and think you could have gotten 2 more years out of it?
You know, I guess I always look at it, especially the older you get, when you get away from the game, you miss it. And you say, you know what, maybe I could have played a couple more years. But I've just looked at the situation that I had in Denver and having coming off 2 world championships. My last season there, I'd kind of had some hamstring problems, and I cracked a rib, and so I had some health problems. What I found is I didn't heal, and so the game didn't heal very well, and so the game became harder and harder. And I just thought, yeah, sure, I could have probably played a couple more years, but I really just thought being able to leave the game on an all-time high with 2 championships was the best way to go. And if I left something on the table, I'd rather leave it on the table with something left to go and not go a couple more years and have left 1 year too late. So I want to make sure I left too early rather than too late.
John, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I admire your career and you personally, and for joining us on the Herd today. I really appreciate it. You didn't have to do this, and I thank you so much for stopping by.
Well, thank you for having us on there, Colin. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you about the Grace Harbor up there, and nice to know I know someone else from the area.
Yep, John Elway, Bronco GM. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.